All right, let's check out what's going on in Sri Lanka. I'm going to be talking about this issue in a knee-jerk way. From what I've read so far, the little I've read this morning, it looks like Sri Lanka's problems could have been avoided if they embraced better policies over the last half decade to decade. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of civil unrest right now in Sri Lanka. This is a video that was put out by Al Jazeera, which I know is funded by the government of Qatar. I guess take it with a grain of salt, but this I guess is the best I can do at the moment.
They called Saturday D-Day, when protesters say the president and his government would be forced to step down. They blame Gotabaya Rajapaksa for an economic crisis that's made life unbearable for many of the country's 22 million people. After breaking through barricades, yet another unprecedented moment. The demonstrators stormed into the president's official residence in Colombo.
Stormed into the president's official residence. That's a tongue twister. Breaking precedent, they stormed into the president's residence.
Inside, this is what it looked like. The president was moved by his security team to an undisclosed location earlier, while protesters ransacked his bedroom and took photographs on his bed.
Yeah, pool party.
Within moments, the presidential pool, once reserved for the country's top leaders, appeared more like a community pool.
Today is the Independence Day for me, being born in this nation, not 1948. Because today, we have fought for our freedom from the tyranny, from the scoundrels, from the blackguards, from the rascals, the rogues, and the greedy politicians who have run our nation below ground zero.
The 73-year-old president was elected in 2019. Analysts say it's only a matter of time before he's forced to step down.
From what I've read, he's a pretty nationalistic president.
As soon as the president's resignation is announced, the prime minister becomes the acting president according to the constitution, and that is for a period of 30 days, within which Parliament...
According to this article on the Wall Street Journal, I think it was just put up today by Philip Wen. Yeah, just put up this morning. Sri Lanka Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, hope I said that right. I probably butchered the hell out of it, let's be honest. Says he will resign amid protests. Protests stormed the occupied the president's residence amid public anger over the country's deepening sovereign debts. Says the political fallout is the culmination of months of public unrest. The South Asian nation's wilting economy has seen Sri Lankans endure months of double-digit inflation, rolling power blackouts, and severe shortages of fuel and medicine. Sri Lanka's foreign reserves are depleted to the point where it can no longer afford to pay for its essential imports, and the country defaulted on its debt for the first time in history in May, with queues outside of gas stations snaking for miles around city blocks. Authorities closed schools and restricted gas supplies to essential services to conserve fuel. And I was trying to look into this, what led up to this. And I already saw stories from Bloomberg, this is from May of 2016, that said, new Sri Lanka Prime Minister will sell airline and print money to pay wages. This is apparently what has fueled the crisis. This is according to the Wikipedia article, the present Sri Lankan economic crisis from 2019 to now. Talks about how, they cut taxes. The new president They made large tax cuts, and it depleted a lot of revenue to fund the government operations, saying the massive loss of tax revenue resulted in rating agencies downgrading the sovereign credit rating, making it harder to take on more debt. In 2021, PB Jayasundara stated that the president was aware of the lost revenue but considered it an investment and had no plans of increasing taxes for another 5 years. To cover government spending, the central bank began printing money in record amounts, ignoring advice from the International Monetary Fund.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs!
To stop printing money and instead hike interest rates and raise taxes while cutting spending. The IMF warned that continuing to print money would lead to an economic implosion. This Wikipedia article relies on this article from March 4th, saying Sri Lanka money printing deficits could lead to economic implosion, according to the IMF. That was March. Now it's July. And how are things going? This is according to NBC News. Sri Lanka gives public workers extra day off to grow food to address fuel shortages in the crisis-hit South Asian nation. Government officials are being encouraged to stay home on Fridays and farm. This is from last month, June. And then I found articles from back in 2016 about how Sri Lanka was really trying to push toward solar energy. Why would they be doing that? The sense I get is that they were trying to move away from reliable sources of energy like fossil fuels. There was this article from September of 2021 talking about how Sri Lanka to cease building coal-fired power plants and aims to be a net zero emitter by 2050. Now, how is that working out? Also, yeah, there was this article written in April talking about how to avoid default. Sri Lanka might need to get tougher on climate change. Really?
That's just not smart.
And now it's just a few months later. In this case, it's a year later. And now we're getting stories about how they're having fuel shortages, rolling power blackouts. I think one of the issues with trying to go solar was, trying to fund this stuff. Yeah, fuck it. Just print some more money. That will solve everything. It sounds like Sri Lanka, for about the last 5 to 10 years, has embraced policies. They've embraced the politics of Greta No Thunberg and Keltonomics, Stephanie Keltonomics. For those who don't know who Stephanie Kelton is, she's an economics professor who teaches economics at Stony Brook University, and she's well known for her theory. Her economic theory that many people call MMT, but I call it PMMT, print more money theory. And Stephanie Kelton, she's been a guest on Jon Stewart's new show on Apple TV. A lot of people on the left, they're open to PMMT and Stephanie Kelton. How's it working out in Sri Lanka? Just printing, we can just print all this money. We can pay for the government by printing money. We don't have to cut spending. We don't have to raise taxes. We just print money and there won't be any consequences. And now look what's happening. And I want to be clear here. I don't mean to make light of this because a lot of people in Sri Lanka are clearly suffering. And looking at the protests, I'm not sure if these protests, if this ends up resulting in a revolution or maybe just a replacement of the government. I'm not sure it will be replaced with something sensible. As we've seen a lot in history, a lot of times when there's a revolution and a government is replaced, oftentimes it's replaced with something worse. So yeah, this crisis could very well get a lot worse. And I don't, mean to make light of this, of people suffering. I'm making light of the Greta No Thunbergs and the Stephanie Keltons of the world and their brain-dead cheerleaders who say this is the way we gotta go when we can see that they're ideas are incredibly destructive. Another thing that Sri Lanka did within the last few years was this new president declared that Sri Lanka was going to go 100% organic farming. Oh, and great. Now I clicked this link. I was able to read it like an hour ago, and now it wants me to pay for it. Jesus. This is the mainstream media for you, folks. There's another article on SBS News. Green Dreams, how going organic helped spark Sri Lanka's crisis. This is from May of this year. From growing less rice to riots and the Prime Minister's resignation, turning the country organic became a catalyst for Sri Lanka's worsening economic and humanitarian crisis. You guys remember last decade when it became cool to share all of these anti-GMO memes of fucking pictures of tomatoes with syringes in it, and do we really like all these chemicals in our food source?
Blow it out your ass.
And it kind of fueled this mentality of like, I saw a lot of people arguing that like the FDA needs to step in and ban GMOs because we can't trust greedy corporations like Monsanto, especially after they got bought out by Bayer. Then they became part of Big Pharma. Sri Lanka's president won the election in 2019, campaigning on a green vision that included turning the country organic within 10 years. Then in April 2021, he made the bold decision to ban the importation of artificial fertilizers, pesticides, and weedicides.
That's just not smart.
Just like that, the country became 100% organic overnight. With Sri Lanka having one of the highest rates of chronic kidney disease in the world, the concerns around chemicals and illness played a significant role in the president's plan. But the response was clear: outrage. Going organic was an attempt to save lives, the environment, and the economy. So how could something so harmless as organic food lead to violence and unrest? Since the 1960s, Sri Lanka has subsidized farmers to use synthetic fertilizer, resulting in doubling of yields for crops such as the staple rice. But by 2020, the total cost of fertilizer imports and subsidies were close to $500 million each year. With fertilizer costs on the rise and a budget hit badly by COVID-19, it was hoped that the ban would help cut expenditure and improve foreign exchange, as well as address concerns about the health effects of using chemicals in growing food. The government had promised to distribute organic alternatives to farmers, but failed to secure enough stock, which meant many crops were sown without fertilizer at all, with farmers expected to carry on as normal without any training on how to successfully grow crops organically. Within the first 6 months of Sri Lanka turning organic, domestic rice production fell heavily.
No surprise there.
The ban also devastated the country's primary export and source of foreign exchange, tea. It's not just the lack of fertilizer hurting farmers. A shortage of fuel and rising prices means there are some who are unable to afford or find kerosene or diesel essential for tractors and other agricultural goods. What have I been talking about lately, guys? The association between fossil fuel energy and plentiful food, cheap food that the masses can enjoy, that helps that the poorest of the poor among us need the most. This is what the politics of anti-GMO, the politics of Greta No Thunberg, this is what it results in. With violent protests, soaring inflation, and the currency collapse, the government finally suspended the policy for several key crops, including tea and coconut, in February, but it came all too late. The World Bank estimates 500,000 people have fallen into poverty as Sri Lanka faces its worst financial crisis since independence. Though the shift in organic is not the only reason fueling the crisis, it has contributed to it. And I've read somewhere else, I read somewhere, maybe it's here. Farmers in general are being offered $250 million in compensation by the Sri Lankan government, while rice farmers who face losses are being offered $212 million in subsidies. Yeah, so this bad policy resulted in the government feeling the need to bail out a lot of these farmers who struggled to keep up, who struggled to produce due to this government intervention in agriculture. I don't know to what extent this fueled the printing money and inflation that Sri Lanka is dealing with right now, but it probably played a role in both that it reduced output, it reduced the availability of goods and services in the market, while also increasing the amount of currency in the market. That's a healthy recipe for inflation, folks. Today, the presidency hangs on by a thread. Again, this article was put up 6 weeks ago. How's it working out? Are you guys proud of this? All you knuckleheads out there who hold up Greta Thunberg as a hero and used to share memes of the tomato with the syringes in it. Oh man, do you really want your do you really want your dinner with all these chemicals in it? Huh? Are you guys proud of this fucking virtue signaling? This the world you want to live in? Less food, less energy to use, rolling power outages, runaway inflation, miles of lines outside of a gas station.
They broke through the barricades. It's the latest demonstration caused by Sri Lanka's worst economic crisis in decades. The country is suffering rampant inflation and struggling to import food, fuel, and medicine.
Rampant inflation again because of the government imposing policies in the name of going green, in the name of doing their part to save the world from climate change, trying to shift the agricultural sector to go organic because we can't trust big pharma and chemicals in our food. Cut government tax revenue. Oh, we'll just print the money. What's the big deal? It's a healthy dose, healthy combination of Greta Thunberg and David Avocado Wolf, one of those organic idiots that I reference. The whole anti-GMO pseudoscience movement. Greta Thunberg, pseudoscience, and Stephanie Keltonomics and print more money theory. And if you want to know what the consequences are of that, these ideas that are widely popular, not laughed out of the room enough here in America, places like America. Again, this is why I make light of these situations, not to make light of people who are suffering and political unrest, but no, these are ideas that are popular in places like America, and they need to be laughed out of every room.